Hello, and welcome to the second session of Parent Information Center's Planning for Life After High School online series. This series provides information about where and how planning for life after high school, also called post-secondary transition, is addressed in the Individual Education Program, IEP, and how youth with disabilities and their families can be involved in the process. The Parent Information Center is a statewide family organization that provides information and training to help families of children with disabilities and special health care needs and the professionals that support them to work together more effectively. Parent Information Center is New Hampshire's designated parent training and information center funded by Office of Special Education Programs at the U.S. Department of Education. The contents of this module are developed by Parent Information Center in full or in part under the grant from U.S. Department of Education. In this session, we'll talk about what transition planning components of the IEP are and when they're required to be included, what components mean and how they work together, and provide strategies for youth and families to be involved in the transition process. As we talked about in session 1, transition planning changes the way IEP teams build IEPs. To help us wrap our heads around what this looks like, we'll be using a model developed by nationally recognized expert in transition, Ed O'Leary. In transition planning, the IEP team must now focus on what is often considered the beyond the ed point, what the youth wants to do after high school. In the special education process, the youth's goals for life after high school are called measurable post-secondary goals. Then the IEP team determines the youth's present levels of academic achievement and functional performance related to those post-school goals. Next, the IEP team determines what courses or classes the youth will need to prepare them for their goals and what specific transition services are needed. Then the IEP team develops annual goals and objectives related to the transition services. Now that we have a better understanding of the way the transition planning changes how we develop IEPs, let's talk about what transition planning components are required and when. IDA and the New Hampshire Standards for the Education of Children with Disabilities requires that beginning at age 14, a course of study be developed in the IEP and updated each year. Additionally, it's required that beginning with the IEP that is being implemented when a youth is 16, measurable post-secondary goals are based on age-appropriate transition assessments are included. You may have already noticed that the ages when components are required don't quite match up to the way we discussed building IEPs in the previous slide. We're going to break down the transition planning components. We'll start with the course of study. Here you see a sample of course of study from an IEP. The course of study is a long-range plan that lays out the education program throughout high school. It's not simply a course schedule. At the bottom, there's a section where the IEP team will document how many credits are required by your district for graduation, if it's anticipated that your child will receive a regular high school diploma or a certificate of completion, and the anticipated exit date from school. It's important to note that New Hampshire recently extended eligibility for special education to the day before the youth's 22nd birthday. While the course of study may begin addressing graduation requirements or courses to be taken to complete specific programs such as vocational education programs or college preparatory programs, the course of study should not be limited to what is listed as graduation requirements. The course of study is individualized and centered around the youth's goals for their life after high school. It should include work experiences, community experiences, extended learning opportunities, and internships that are needed to prepare them for achieving their post-secondary school goals. Should be long range, include defining what program looks like for a youth staying in school until age 22. When developing the course of study, here are some things you and your youth may want to consider. What's the different diploma options and how do they impact your youth's post-secondary goals? What courses align with your child's plans for life after high school or would help them figure out their plans? What work or community experiences are needed to support the career exploration or skill development? What extended learning opportunities, ELOs, are available or could be developed to help your youth learn skills or earn high school credits. Now let's talk about the next transition planning components and your youth goals for life after high school. Measurable post-secondary goals. These must be included in the IEP that's in place when a youth is 16. Measurable post-secondary goals should be based upon age-appropriate transition assessments and take into consideration the youth's preferences and interest. Measurable post-secondary goals should be based on age-appropriate transition assessments. What does that mean? Transition assessments include both informal tools and more formal assessments. Oftentimes, initial assessments may be informal ways of gathering information, for example, observations, interviews, checklists, interest inventories, work samples, and personal preference questionnaires. There are also formal assessments that can be done, such as standardized tests, performance reviews, aptitude tests, adaptive behavior, and daily living skills assessment. It's important to remember these assessments don't drive the measurable post-secondary goals. Measurable post-secondary goals must take into consideration youth preference and interest. However, when youth is struggling to figure out what they might do after high school, these types of assessments can provide important information to start. IEP teams are required to develop measurement post-secondary goals that address training or education. By training and education, we're talking about post-secondary learning like attending a technical training program, a 2 to 4 year college, participating in an apprenticeship program, on-the-job training, or a certificate program. Employment, which includes full and part-time employment, independent or supported employment, volunteer opportunities, work-study programs, and internships. And if the IEP team determines it's appropriate, a measurement post-secondary goal addressing independent living must also be included. Unlike training or education and employment goals, independent living goals are not required for every youth. Often we consider daily living skills as needed for youth developmental disabilities. But daily living skills include things like balancing a checkbook, paying bills, preparing meals, things that all youth need to know about. Independent living goals can be related to living arrangements, leisure and recreational activities, community participation, and any other adult living areas such as financial responsibilities and transportation. The IET should discuss if and what independent living goals may be necessary based on the youth assessments and plans for life after high school. It's important to know that unlike annual goals, school districts are not held accountable for whether your youth attains their measurement post-secondary goals. There are too many variables for a school district to control related to what happens after high school. However, it is the school district's responsibility to develop and implement a plan that would reasonably enable your youth to achieve their measurable post-secondary goals. For instance, the school district cannot assure that a youth is accepted into an electronic apprentice program after high school, but they can ensure that the youth has taken all the pre-required classes, has participated in community-based opportunities to explore their career, has the skills and connections necessary to apply for the program. Like the initial course of study that is developed, measurement post-secondary goals may not start out specific. Your youth may have a general idea about their future, but not know exactly what they want to do. The IEP is reviewed and revised at least annually, so their measurement post-secondary goals can evolve. To better understand what the transition planning process looks like, we'll follow the story of two youth, Sarah and Ryan. Each youth has a different vision for their life after high school. We'll be using their stories to explain what the components of the transition planning look like, and how the components work together, and how the process evolves over time. So let's talk about Sarah. Sarah's 15 in the ninth grade. She wants to go to college, but not sure what her major will be. She likes writing, but not sure what that could lead to for a career. Her IEP team did develop a course of study when she was 14, but this year the IEP team wants to start looking at her goals for life after high school. She and her case manager met and discussed where she envisions herself a year out of high school. Together, they developed the following measurable post-secondary goals. Upon the completion of high school, Sarah will attend a four-year college related to her area of interest in writing. When it comes to employment, Sarah's measurable post-secondary goal is, upon completion of high school, Sarah will work full-time in a field that utilizes her skills and passion for writing. The IEP team recognizes that Sarah will need support after high school. They decided they should include measurable post-secondary goals for independent living. Upon completion of high school, Sarah will attend a four-year college, and it will require support from the College Disabilities Office. School districts are required to document that a youth was invited and whether or not they attended their IEP meeting where transition was discussed. Sarah was invited to and attended her IEP meeting. Now let's talk about Ryan. When the IEP began developing the course of study, Ryan was frustrated to learn that he had to go to school after his friends would be graduating. After being assured that he participated in graduation with his friends, he wanted to know if he had to take the bus and go to school every day. Ryan wants to be a state trooper when he graduates from high school. He wants to be like his dad and grandfather who were state troopers. His parents and case manager have concerns about this goal. They feel his cerebral palsy will prevent him from passing the physical requirements and that his cognitive ability will prevent him from being able to make quick decisions necessary from such a demanding job. While there may be concerns about Ryan's goals, the IEP team knows that his measurable post-secondary goal must be based on his preference and interest. Therefore, Ryan's measurable post-secondary goal is, upon completion of high school, Ryan will attend the police academy. This post-secondary education goal directly supports the measurable post-secondary employment goal of working as a state trooper. Ryan is very active in the community now, and he wants to continue that involvement after high school. His IEP team knows that he will require supports in order to do so. Therefore, the IEP team includes a measurable post-secondary independent living goal. Upon the completion of high school, Ryan will live on his own independently, participate in the police athletic league, and he will receive services from the local area agency. Like Sarah, Ryan was invited to and attended his IEP meeting. Now that the IEP team has developed measurable post-secondary goals for Sarah and Ryan, they must determine their present levels of academic achievement and functional performance in relation to them. These describe how a youth is performing academically and functionally and includes a description of their strengths and needs as they relate to the measurable post-secondary goals. To develop these, the IEP team needs to consider things such as classwork, vocational assessments, observations, special education assessments, performance on district and statewide assessments, and input from parents. Let's look back at Sarah. Sarah is currently on track to graduate with a regular high school diploma. She has a good understanding of her disability and learning needs, but needs to develop self-advocacy skills. Sarah's most recent evaluations put her writing skills at or above grade level. She enjoys writing and frequently does so for pleasure. Sarah's unsure what careers her skills and interests could lead to, so she needs opportunities for career exploration. Since the IEP team included measurable post-secondary goals in independent living, they must also determine her present levels. Sarah is aware of the support she needs to be successful in high school. Sarah will need to learn more about her rights and responsibilities in college and what services may be available to assist her. When it comes to Ryan, Ryan will exit his educational program at 22. He's very articulate and communicates his wants and needs well. However, Ryan needs to improve his skills in learning how to interact more appropriately with peers in social situations. Ryan has a strong desire to become a state trooper. Ryan needs to learn more about the job and its requirements. Ryan will also explore additional vocational opportunities that match his interest. Ryan has a strong desire for independence after high school. He currently lives at home and does his own laundry and helps prepare meals. Ryan needs to learn how to navigate the community and other independent living skills. While he knows he needs help and is able to ask for assistance, Ryan is not fully aware of the support needs he has for life after high school. Ryan will need help identifying and connecting to resources that can assist him after high school. Now that the IEP team has developed the measurable post-secondary goals and the present levels, the IEP team asks, what are the transition services, including the course of study, needed to support Ryan and Sarah to reach their goals? Let's quickly review the course of study. Remember, the initial course of study is developed when the student is 14 years old, and while it may start out as just graduation requirements, it's updated annually with measurable post-secondary goals being developed. The course of study should become more defined in the IEP. Let's look at Sarah's course of study. In plotting Sarah's course of study, she and her guidance counselors started with the school handbook and plugged in the courses required for college. Now that we know a bit more about her measurable post-secondary goals, they also allowed for some courses that would allow her to explore different forms of writing and literature to help her narrow down her interests and strengths. Then they reviewed her course of study with the IEP team. As part of what was identified as a requirement to meet her college goal was a 4-credit foreign language. Based on evaluations and Sarah's needs, the IEP team feels that Sarah's dyslexia may make foreign language class a challenge. Since the IEP team members realized this early in the process, they were able to brainstorm some options. Sarah and her IEP team have decided that she will take sign language classes at the local adult learning center and obtain permission from her high school for this to count towards her foreign language requirement. This arrangement will allow her to meet the foreign language requirement while addressing her unique learning needs. Ryan was not pleased with the idea of staying in school till 22. When initially developing the course of study, the IEP team and Ryan plotted out the classes he was going to take over the next several years. They listed work experience and community activities in general terms that they see happening after what would be considered senior year. Ryan sees that he'll be working and not going to school every day. Where Ryan imagines he'll be working with the police department, the IEP team clarifies that this will be determined as Ryan gets closer to his senior year. At least Ryan feels a bit more comfortable with the long-range plan. The IEP team members explain that next year they will revisit the list and make changes to better fit what he wants to do. You'll notice that where Sarah's IEP listed she'll graduate with a regular high school diploma, Ryan will be obtaining her certificate of attendance. Now the IEP team needs to determine what transition services or steps that need to happen in order to prepare Sarah and Ryan to meet their post-secondary goals. Transition services should address the instruction, related services, community experiences, employment, and if appropriate, the acquisition of daily living skills your youth needs in order for them to reach their measurable post-secondary goals. The IEP team must consider whether your child needs to have a functional vocational evaluation. Let's take a look at transition services in more detail. Instruction is the coursework, educational experiences, or skill development needed to prepare your child for college, training programs, or other post-secondary learning or work opportunities. This can include instruction on self-advocacy skills and/or self-disclosure, study, and time management skills. In developing an IEP, the IEP team determines what related services such as speech and language therapy or physical therapy are necessary to assist the child in meeting their goals and accessing the curriculum. When we're talking about related services as a transition service, we mean something different. We're talking about the connections to community resources, agencies, and other supports needed to help you meet their own related service and support needs after high school. Community experiences are the activities designed to help your youth gain skills and connections necessary for them to be an active participant in the community. This would include recreation or leisure activities, adaptive driving course, registering to vote, social skills, training opportunities to learn social and civic responsibilities, training on accessing and using public transportation, etc. Employment services are opportunities to learn work-related skills or soft skills such as communication, job safety, work ethic, job search skills, as well as participating in volunteer opportunities, career exploration, and work experiences. Employment-related transition services might consist of learning how to complete a job application, interviewing skills, and understanding employer expectations. What type of activities, opportunities, or information does your youth need to live as independent as possible? These include supports around daily living skills, such as living situations, guardianship, housing, applying for services such as SSI, etc. Lastly, the IEP team feels it is needed to help inform the transition process. They need to conduct a functional vocational evaluation. This process is a collection of information about a youth's career interest, aptitudes, and skills. This would be included in the formal and informal tools that we discussed as age appropriate transition assessments. This is a section for transition services in the IEP. Also documents that the IEP team considered whether a student might benefit from the assistance from New Hampshire Vocational Rehabilitation, VR, and if so, when was VR notified? VR is a state agency that assists with youth with disabilities to attain their employment goals. It is also assumed that a referral to VR is automatic and made part of the transition process. However, it's not. VR is an important partner in the transition process and can provide important resources to support employment skill development. Families and youth should discuss making a referral to VR with their IEP teams. You will also notice there's a column that says person, agency responsible. Not all transition services listed in the IEP may be the responsibility of the school. To explain more about this, let's take a look at Ryan and Sarah's transition services. As a reminder, Sarah wants to go to college and have a career that incorporates her passion for writing. The transition services are the building blocks to meet that goal. For Sarah, her IEP includes transition services that are responsibility of the school, her, and her family. Sarah and her family will attend college fairs to learn about college options and the type of disability supports available. Her case manager will support Sarah in exploring career options and support Sarah in developing her self advocacy skills. The school will also conduct a assistive technology evaluation to see if there may be some technology supports that could help Sarah be more successful in college. As you can see, Ryan's transition services look different. While they include career exploration and a referral to vocational rehabilitation, it also includes a family exploring adaptive driving program. His case manager will also help him build skills in the areas of self advocacy, money management, and social skills. In addition, his family is also exploring guardianship options, including supported decision making. As Ryan gets closer to exiting his program, his case manager will help him learn about maneuvering through the community. When developing transition services, there are a few things we should keep in mind. As you saw in both Sarah and Ryan's IEPs, others beside the school staff had a role in carrying out the plan. The school district must invite, with parental permission, any agencies that could provide or pay for transition services. This can include a representative from vocational rehabilitation, your local area agency, the community health care center, or other community supports. Like with your youth, there is no requirement for the agency representative to attend an IEP meeting. IEP teams may not know what agencies may be appropriate. Identifying these agencies might be part of the transition planning process. It's important to note that if other agencies or person, this includes you, the parent, or the youth, is responsible for providing transition services and fails to do so, that the school district is not responsible to provide that service. For instance, the IEP team identified that Sarah's family would assist her on college visits. Should the family not follow through, the IEP team is not responsible to take her. Rather, the IEP team must convene to identify possible alternatives to help Sarah learn more about colleges she's interested in. Sometimes IEP teams may be hesitant to put things in the transition plan because they don't want to be held accountable if someone fails to follow through. But IDA is very specific that it is not the school's district responsibility to provide all services. Families and IEP teams are encouraged to think about and identify and invite others to the IEP meeting that might be able to provide support or assistance during the transition process. Frequently, IEP teams gravitate to what agencies they know or are aware of. Now it is time to think outside the box and think beyond agencies and systems. Is there a relative, a friend, or a neighbor who owns a business in the field your youth is interested in? How can we build upon any current employment they may have? In this video, a family shares their experience with the transition services.
For Tony, as far as transition services that we put or included in the IEP, there was a lot of things, I guess, if you look over the last 2 or 3 years. Once we identified a program for early childhood development, we had to arrange for transportation from her high school to the program where it takes place. Once she gets to the early childhood development, she has a paraprofessional, which really serves as a job coach. She has an access to nurse both at the high school and at the early childhood program.
And even things when she wants to go to a dance or an after-school activity, she has a nurse there available to her so that they can check her blood sugar, and if she wants to eat something, her pump can be modified.
Correct.
During extended school year services, we hired Northeast Passages, and my son was taught how to use public transportation, how to read a bus schedule, and how to manage his money, because he needed money not only to get there, but also enough money to get home. He learned how to wait at a bus stop, how to do it safely. And to this day, we are now in a different community. He's been out of school for a few years. He is able to use public transportation safely and successfully.
She actually accessed and benefited from math tutoring. It was a very strong support to help her get through her classes. SAT review class, which was through the special education team, because it needed to help her with her math learning disability to best prepare for that test. She also received writing support for her college essay. We attended the college fair at the high school and talked with some of the counselors that were available to us. And we also researched schools that had strong learning disability support. And then we also had to apply for SAT accommodations through the special education team at school, so that she could have extended time on the SATs. All of these transition services helped Erin to support her to reach her measurable post-secondary goal, which she did, and she is now attending a 4-year college and is doing terrific.
So in respect to the transition services and the services that we have in the IEP, we again had to revamp that and add some things. The school was able to give us an outside vendor to work on the outside work opportunities, to learn how to fill out a job application, go on an interview, go out in the community, he learned how to ride a bus in Manchester if he needed to get to the library or someplace else. And that was all incorporated right in his IEP.
Join us for the third and final session of this series, where we will talk about the transition plan informing annual goals. We'll also discuss other transition-related activities that families need to be aware of.